Hello, Gold participants from around the world. I'm Fleur Bickford, Program Director and MC for Gold Lactation 2016. I'm chatting today with Liz Brooks about her upcoming presentation titled Whiners and Deniers, Ethics and Diplomacy in Difficult Cases. So welcome, Liz. We're so happy to have you back with us.
Thanks, Fleur. I'm happy to be back.
So to start with, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? I'd love to know a little bit about how you went from lawyer to lactation consultant. That's a bit of a change in direction there for you.
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot, and I joke and say that I used to put them in jail, and now I put them to rest. But I started in this journey, like many women do, as a mother. I was home with my firstborn in 1990. I had a 6-month maternity leave, most of it unpaid, and that's considered a huge amount of time off in the United States. And as I got closer and closer to my return date to work, I became more and more clutched about the thought of leaving my child in the care of someone else. And fortunately, I was in a position to know that I had the option to stay home. We were living in a home that we could live in on one income, although in the late 80s, if you had asked lawyer Liz, are you going to stay home with your children? I probably would have said, oh no, I'm going to go back to work, and then I'm going to become one of the Supreme Court justices. But as I stayed home, I found a great deal of enjoyment going to my local Mothers Support Group. It was run by an organization called the Nursing Mothers Advisory Council. That's a lot like the Australian Breastfeeding Association or La Leche League. It's just a place for new parents to come together who are in similar circumstances. And as somebody who is kind of a reader, learner, doer, I became a counselor with that group. And after doing that for a handful of years, I started to kind of go, well, what else is there in lactation land? And I saw the requirements to become an international board certified lactation consultant. And so I acquired all the training and education that I needed, and I became IBCLC certified for the first time in 1997. And by that time, I had 3 children.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny how having children often kind of changes the direction of your life.
Oh yeah,
Well,
away
from what you thought.
For me, the fun thing is that all of the years that I was home with babies, I still kept my lawyer's license active. I just couldn't bear not to. I loved the fact that I was a lawyer. It was a dream of mine to become one, and it was a lot of work to get there. And let me tell you, if you think it's hard to have babes in arms at lactation conferences, try doing it at continuing legal education conferences. And at the time, in my early years, I thought to myself that I was doing that just for my own personal vanity. But really, the great wonder to me is the joy of knowing that it's really come full circle. And now here I am at the fabulous International Gold online conference, able to share some of my legal training and thinking as I have applied it to what we do as lactation consultants. So I love the fact that I am able to do both things now.
Yeah, it's wonderful the way you've been able to integrate the two, and I know that many of us around the world are very grateful for your education when it comes to a lot of these difficult topics to do with ethics and diplomacy and stuff. So
thanks, Fleur. I appreciate that.
So next question is, well, this year for lactation, this is our 10th anniversary. We've been doing gold for 10 years, which is kind of hard to believe, but one of the things that I'm curious about as we do the interviews this year is kind of looking back a little bit. So I'm curious, over the course of your career, what is one of the biggest changes that you've seen? Like whether it's just to do with breastfeeding or to do with breastfeeding and ethics, what's the biggest change that you've seen, and what's one thing that hasn't changed very much?
Well, that is a deep question. I would say that one of the biggest changes I've seen in the course of my career, and I'm going for my 20-year research in 2017. Speaking, I will say, with my lens here in the United States, is the great expansion of and embracing of the baby-friendly hospital initiative here in the United States. We are not anywhere near where we should be. We aren't anywhere near where many other countries were. But I remember when I was first studying to become an IBCLC, my colleagues and I would just kind of chortle right out loud at the thought of any major birth hospital in any city in the United States being willing to do the kind of work it takes to fully embrace the 10 steps. And now it's happening, and it's happening a lot. And, you know, competition is a pretty good thing. And in my city of Philadelphia, we have 7 major birthing facilities. 2 of them have been designated baby-friendly, including the one I do work at, Pennsylvania Hospital, which is the nation's oldest hospital and is now a baby-friendly designated hospital. Woohoo! So it's nice to see, because some of the other hospitals in Philadelphia are looking and saying, oh, well, if they can do it, we should do it too, because they recognize, you know, it's important. It's important for their ability to provide best practices to the families that deliver there, and they know that families are smart, and they are looking for baby-friendly designated hospitals as the place, or birthing centers as the place where they can deliver their children. I think clinically, for my private practice, what I've noticed in the last 10 years is it seems like we are working with far more complex cases clinically in private practice. And I think that's because back in the day, we sort of were the only people out there offering any kind of skilled lactation care. And, you know, I used to say, you know, I long for the consult where we're just going to, you know, offer a few pillows and work on position and latch, and voila, everything's going to be fixed. Now we are working with families that have very complex histories. Maybe their children came early, or they were preemies, or we've got a history of polycystic ovarian syndrome, or what about infertility issues? There's lots of more complex things going on, and I think it's because these are the more specialized cases which have found their way to lactation consultants, because that's what we do. IBCLCs are able to offer cross-disciplinary skilled lactation care, and it's lovely to know that there are many options of other kinds of breastfeeding helpers out there that families can turn to get that kind of, oh, here's how you change position and latch help. It makes it harder for us as private practitioners, but that is a notice I definitely have seen in the last 10 years. But what's happened, what's stayed the same over the last 10 years? I'll tell you one thing I have noticed, and you know, this is either good or it's bad, it just is what it is, especially with regard to ethics and legal issues. IBCLCs have to really rely on their diplomacy skills, and we talk a little bit about this in the presentation I offer to Gold, but we don't, by virtue of our certification, automatically have a position of authority and respect. In many healthcare providing cultures, you know, if you're a doctor, people know what that means. It accords you a certain amount of professional power. And I don't mean that in any kind of a bad way. I mean that, you know, people recognize that you have certain skills and abilities and authority that comes with you having that title. IBCLCs have a title, to be sure, but often what we do and how we do it is not fully understood and appreciated by our colleagues. So in order to have our great care be understood and appreciated by our colleagues, we have to get them to hear us. We can't just come marching into a room and slam our fists on the table and say, I'm the IBCLC and here's how it goes. That's not going to wash. So I have found that we today, as we have for many, many years, and probably since the profession was invented 31 years ago, been placed in the position of having to do our very best to help to educate families, educate administrators, educate policymakers, so that they can know and understand the great care and skill that IBCLCs can bring to the table and to help improve the public health of everybody involved.
Okay, thank you for that, Liz. It's I agree. It's, you know, certainly can be very challenging for us as IBCLCs when, you know, often we have to explain what our title means. You know, people are like,
yep,
what is an IBCLC? And when you're starting from a place of having to explain what it is you do, it does make it very challenging.
It's true.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your upcoming presentation. Maybe you can just give us a little bit of a sneak peek into what you're going to be talking about and let us know what you hope the delegates will be able to take away from your presentation.
Happy to do that, Fleur. Well, this topic, whiners and deniers, ethics and diplomacy in difficult cases, is designed to help practitioners be able to really just immediately have clues and ideas of how they can work with families where they find that the case and the communication in the case is difficult, or colleagues. And this is not uncommon in our work. We may work with a mother, for example, who's got a newborn, and she is just thrilled to be breastfeeding and very eager to do so, and she's meeting some challenges, and she's working with you as the IBCLC. But perhaps her own mother or her mother-in-law did not breastfeed and thinks breastfeeding is an odd practice. Can't understand why this new mother feels that it's so important. So we might have to be doing education in an environment where we know that the mother who is getting our good care when we are there is going to be getting a whole different kind of message once we leave. What happens when you have got a coworker who doesn't understand that just a little bottle here or a little bottle there of infant formula can really have risks for the family that has a baby who's being offered the formula? What if we've got bosses who are saying things, and this is happening all over the world? What lactation? Why do we have that department here anyway? Let's save ourselves a couple of dollars and let's get rid of the lactation department. So oftentimes we find ourselves having to defend what we do clinically and defend our presence as part of a well-staffed healthcare team that is helping to provide care to new families. And it's nice to be able to feel confident that we know what we're doing, and that if someone should challenge us, I want people to feel like they can quickly at their fingertips know what to say to help people to understand what it is that we do. So sometimes these conflicts happen for good reasons. People have every intention of understanding what IBCLCs do and just have never had an opportunity to be educated. Sometimes we run into conflicts just like we do in everything else in our lives, where you can run into somebody in a conversation and you have a difference of opinion about something, and you want to be able to walk away from the conversation on a high note and not having everybody with a bad taste in their mouths. So I'm just hoping I can help some of my colleagues and those who are here listening to this conference on gold have some ideas of how they can brush up on knowing and understanding and having at their fingertips the quick answers to what their practice guiding documents are, and how they are a wonderful resource to help us to explain to people what it is we do and why it is that IBCLCs empower families and save babies' lives.
Okay, thank you so much, Liz. It sounds fantastic, and I'm certainly looking forward to hearing more. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you, Fleur.
Okay, for our delegates who are listening, you will be able to hear more from Liz with her presentation titled Whiners and Deniers, Ethics and Diplomacy in Difficult Cases on Tuesday, April 26th at 2300 UTC. So we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks for joining. Have a good day, everyone.